Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Havoc Hour. I'm your host, Reek Havoc. I apologize for the days off. I've been battling a cold and some allergies. But we're back today, and we're going to start the show off with a very particular topic. If you're wondering why I have this tone, I'm back to normal. I'm not sick anymore. But I'm extremely ticked off today. And to illuminate why that is, I'm going to play something for you guys. It's a clip from ESPN's First Take in regards to an incident that took place at last night's Knicks game against the Houston Rockets. Listen to this.
It started a month ago because for 28 years I've been using employee entrance, and after every game I take the ramp. It's a circular ramp outside and inside the garden. It's a circle. It's a shape of the garden.
By it before we go to the media. Yes.
For 20 years, my entrance has been employee entrance. For 20 years, I go down the ramp, and a month ago they stopped me from going down the ramp.
Spike, I have a question.
Yeah.
You don't know why.
No, okay. All of a sudden, they say we're a new policy out of nowhere. Here's the thing: if they have my phone number, text, email, let me know. It is not my fault that I went through it. There's a policy change, which must have changed since Wednesday because I used the employee entrance Wednesday. What was yesterday? Tuesday?
Yeah.
When did the thing change?
Today's
Monday.
Tuesday.
Today's Tuesday. Yes, it was Monday.
No, but
It's been a long day.
the kill of Mockingbird was Wednesday.
Yes, last Wednesday. Yeah.
When does policy change? Again, if I'm a day late with deposit, my phone is ringing off the hook.
I have a
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Spike Lee. If you don't know him, very renowned filmmaker, staple in the black community. He is a lifelong Knicks fan, die-hard Knicks fan. Born and raised in New York City, never misses a game. And he is courtside every time the Garden is featuring the New York Knicks. Last night, an incident took place where, as he said, he was using his normal entrance, but for some reason now security had an issue with him using that entrance, stating that there's a new policy in effect that he was not aware of, he wasn't told about. James Dolan even came down to try and address it with him. But communication was not made about the situation. He was just simply told that he could not use the entrance that he had been using, like he said, for almost 30 years. So, in a nutshell, we got Charles Oakley situation happening all over again. For those who don't know, a few years ago, Charles Oakley was kicked out of Madison Square Garden. Charles Oakley is a staple of the New York Knicks franchise. He is the heart and soul of the Knicks. Well, when he played for the Knicks, was the heart and soul of the New York Knicks franchise. Just bleeding orange and blue. He was thrown out of the arena. The reasons for it, we will never know. They've given their statements. The Knicks and their press have given their statements. But the truth, we won't know. We won't know the real reason. Now, Oakley has been vocal about the performances, lack thereof, of the New York Knicks franchise and this allergy they have to winning. But in terms of why he would have been thrown out of Madison Square Garden, the real reason for that eludes me, eludes all of the public. Now we come to last night. When If you watch a Knicks game, I'll say if. I don't know why you'd be, but if you do. One thing you can always rest assured you will see is Spike Lee sit front and center, probably with his jersey on, his beanie, his orange glasses, front and center. Usually got his hands on his hips or folded because he don't like what he's seeing. That man is probably more loyal than any fan of any franchise outside of, like, I don't know, Jack Nicholson with the Lakers, Wahlberg with the Patriots. Like, it's beyond any of those guys. The Knicks have absolutely no reason to promote their brand. They have nothing worth promoting. And yet and still, this man shows up every game without fault. To the point so that this man, if I just heard this correctly, this man spends $300,000 annually, including preseason, to attend Knicks games. That is about 4 times the annual salary of the average U.S. citizen. That's being polite. He spends $300,000 annually to attend Knicks games at Madison Square Garden. And like you just heard him say, if he is a day late with a deposit, they are blowing his phone up. But he was not informed about a quote-unquote policy change within Madison Square Garden. And ladies and gentlemen, this is in the aftermath of this new regime, we want to call it, where James Dolan's brought in image consultants, he has a new president of operations, and the focus is on trying to change the image and the perspective of what the Knicks are. And we're not even 2 months past that yet. And this is what happens inside your building. I can see if this was like an away game, but this was in your building. This was in Madison Square Garden. The biggest fan that you've ever had. And this is how he was treated? When no one else would care for the Knicks, when no one else would sit in front and center and watch the mediocrity that is the New York Knicks, you could count on Spike Lee being there. And this is a night that the Knicks won a game. They beat the Houston Rockets last night. A night where R.J. Barrett was dropping 27, Julius Randle was dropping 16. They did what everybody was clicking on all cylinders. They beat the Houston Rockets. I can't believe I'm saying that sentence out of my mouth. But the headline is not even that they won this game. It's about Spike Lee and the way he was treated last night. So, if you saw my post, I said I had an announcement to make regarding my status as a Knicks fan. Here's the announcement. Come the end of the season, when this is all said and done, obviously we know the Knicks aren't doing anything. If anything, this win last night was a fluke. You know, Houston got out to New York and started enjoying the bright lights and the parties and the nightlife, all that stuff. I don't take any stock in it. They won, great, but I don't get excited about it. But come the season's end, when everyone's going home and enjoying the off season, if James Dolan is not resigned from his position, bought out, or just removed, I will no longer be considering myself a Knicks fan. I will be removing my fan card and I will take it right down the bridge to Brooklyn. You heard it here first. If you're watching this, if you're listening to this, my Knicks fan card will be removed if James Dolan is still the owner of this franchise come next season. I am not playing. It has nothing to do with the team. They're garbage. They're always whooping. But I'm a Jets fan, so I'm used to mediocrity. This is about an institutional failure to your fan base. Charles Oakley was bad enough. There is no excuse for that happening. None. James Dolan was there. He allowed it to happen. I haven't even heard an apology from him in terms of that. That was just disgusting. But now you have Spike Lee. That name is synonymous with the Knicks. He should be getting paid by the Knicks for showing up to the games at this point. But that's how you treat him? That's how you treat a man that spends $300,000 a year on your product? That shows to me that shows a complete dereliction of duty to your fan base. You as an owner have an obligation to your fan base. Period. It's that simple. I don't care if you're not involved in the basketball operations aspect of it. I don't care if you have people that you've hired to handle the operations of the team. You, as an owner, have an obligation to your fan base. James Dolan, for the better part of the last several decades, or two, rather, I'm sorry. For the better part of 2 decades, you have failed. There's no other way to put this. You have failed, and it's just, enough's enough. He needs to go. Because when everyone else was saying, oh, he's got these people he hired for, his image and a new president of basketball operations, everyone else, people were saying, okay, there's hope, there's optimism. I shrugged my shoulders. Because leopard don't change his spots. This man does not care about this team. He does not care about this franchise. And that is not the hallmark of an owner. It is not. And Spike in this interview went on to say that he's not going to a Knicks game for the rest of the season. He'll be back next season, he says. I don't know why. But he's done for the year. Because this, rightfully so, has left a very bad taste in his mouth. This is outrageous. And it's inexcusable. So, like I said, come next season, in the fall, when basketball starts up again, if James Dolan is still the owner of the New York Knicks franchise, I will be exclusively a fan of the Brooklyn Nets. There, you said it right then and there. My parents are from Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn. It all fits anyway. Why not? That's the team that people want to go to. And like I said, again, this is nothing about them losing. They've been losing. I've still said, go Knicks. I mean, I haven't said it, but in my head I said it. Nothing to do with them performances. This is about the infrastructure. This is about the system. This is about what's going on off the court. Because the Charles Oakley situation is another reason why a player like Kevin Durant doesn't come to play for the Knicks. Teams can be reworked. Players can be shuffled around. Schemes can be implemented. A losing team can be brought back to life. Look at Golden State. Look at the Cavaliers. Well, that's LeBron, but still. The Lakers, the Clippers, the Hawks, the Bucks. Losing can be fixed. Bad ownership cannot. This is an issue from the top down. And me personally, I've had it from that aspect. It's got to stop. So, next season, a lot could change when it comes to my status in that regard. And I just wanted to let y'all know that. So, now that we got that out the way, get into some other news here. Now, we're about a week removed from Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury Part 2. Obviously, if you saw the fight, it was an absolute domination on the part of Tyson Fury. He completely outclassed Deontay Wilder. He made Deontay look as though he was not even in his league. He did not belong in the ring with him that night. I knew that Tyson Fury was the better boxer. But the thing is, Deontay is unpredictable. And he always has the ace up his sleeve of his power. Even that being said, I did not expect things to go south so quickly as they did. I mean, by the time the second round was over, you could see that Deontay would not win this fight. He'd been hit in the side. I do think that the shot that did this wasn't legal, but it was in the throes of the moment. You can't really penalize that. It wasn't intentional, but a shot right in the side of the head really damaged his equilibrium. I know he wants to say, he's come out and say that this 45-pound contraption he put on his body that made him look like Sauron from Lord of the Rings, that put some weight and stress on his legs so that he couldn't get himself together, and that attributed to his loss. I don't want to hear that. Guys wear weighted vests all the time. I wear weighted vests when I work out. So I don't want to hear nothing about that. But by the end of the second round, his equilibrium was off, and Tyson just went on for 5 more rounds to just completely pick him apart. And so that's in the books now. Fury is the champ. And Deontay, just 2 days ago now, has officially announced that he will invoke his rematch. And the date has been set, July 13th, back in the same arena, MGM Grand in Las Vegas. We will see Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Part 3. I'm here to tell you, I've slept on it. I gave it some thought. I don't think my man should do this. I don't think he should. I'm a fan of Deontay. I don't think he should do it. Here's why. Now, I just said that he's unpredictable, and the power in that punch can bring him a victory any day of the week. But that's knowing how to fight. That's knowing how to knock somebody out. That's not boxing. Tyson Fury is a complete boxer. An elite boxer. If Deontay Wilder wants to beat Tyson Fury definitively, he has to learn truthfully the ins and outs of boxing. Here's what I mean by that. If you watch both fights between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, it was clear that, at least towards the later rounds, in the first fight, Tyson Fury was outboxing him. If you were to take away the knockdowns where he had Tyson Fury look like out for the count until he got back up, if you take that away, both of them, I don't know that Wilder wins that fight. Because he was outboxed. But, again, like I said, the unpredictability, that cannon that he's got, that he can unleash on you at a moment's notice, and once it lands, it will do damage. That saved him. And that swung in his favor. And keep in mind, even with those knockdowns, it still ended in a draw. So you could argue that if he doesn't knock down Fury once, twice, then Fury probably wins that fight. Not even probably. It's evident he wins that fight. It's clear. Then you come to the second fight. It only lasted 7 rounds. And Wilder didn't even look comfortable. He didn't even get to a point where he was landing those shots. Fury was keeping him at a distance with the jab and was killing his face with it. Tyson was the aggressor. He came forward. The fight started with Wilder walking backwards. He was never the person advancing in the fight. So, by virtue of that alone, that should tell you there's a discrepancy in the skill level. Deontay Wilder is a hell of a heavy hitter. Deontay Wilder is a knockout artist. That's all great. But he needs to learn how to box. Because there's more to boxing than just throwing a sharp overhand or a sharp jab and putting somebody on their face. There's more to boxing than that, a lot more. In 44 fights, 42 of his wins came from knockout. Or 41, I'm sorry. And he's beaten true boxers. Because, again, you have that power. At a moment's notice, you can unload it. And that'll be it. It's called a puncher's chance. Any guy that can punch has a chance. If he's not elite, if he's not a top fighter, he's still got a puncher's chance because he's standing across from you and he has something that he can use. For Deontay, it is his power. That has always given him a puncher's chance. And, you know, with his size and intangibles, he's a tall, lanky guy. That's given him, he has a nice athletic build that gives him that puncher's chance. But we've seen plenty of guys that don't have the proper skill set in terms of boxing. They don't last. 42-0 for a guy who's never truly showed real boxing prowess. That's phenomenal. That's unheard of. And no one's saying that he has to be unhittable. I mean, we've seen that the best of all time, Ali, didn't have a performance where he didn't get hit. You're not going to have a flawless performance when you don't get touched. It's boxing. You're going to get hit. Ali, Tyson, Foreman, Frazier, all these guys, phenomenal boxers. legendary boxers. They've been tagged in some of their best performances when Ali could float like a butterfly, when he could make you swing and miss that air. He'll still get tagged at some point. But these are things that you have to know to be great in this game. And Deontay hasn't had to do that. But now he's facing a guy that he is not going to beat unless that changes. It has to. Because the way, if you really look at this from a boxing lens, from that scope of it, the score is 2-0, Fury. The first fight was a draw, but he got dropped. He still basically won the fight if you take those drops out of it. It's 2-0 Fury. If you're looking at this from the scope of pure boxing. So this is a situation where you got to sit back, you got to go back to the lab, and you really, really have to hone your boxing skills. Talk to Floyd. You know, talk to some of the guys that done it, you know. Train with these guys. You know, learn your full repertoire of boxing skills. Learn head movement, man. At least that. Head movement would have done wonders against Fury, because he was not moving his head at all. Just that one thing. You got to do that. He has to do that, and I think he should do that and take a tune-up fight. Let Fury go fight Anthony Joshua, because that needs to happen. Anthony Joshua needs to stop fighting bums. I don't know who this dude is that he just announced he's going to fight soon. But let Fury fight Anthony Joshua. Go take a tune-up fight. Get your boxing skills together. Fight someone else. Then say, okay, me and Fury got to go again. We got to settle it. I can't have that. That's understandable. I think he's rushing. I think the ego is hurt. It's shattered. Obviously, an undefeated fighter taking his first loss, that's hard to fathom, and I understand that. But we got to stop with the ego stuff, man. We got to stop. You can't let pride push you into making all these decisions. Plain and simple. That's what it comes down to. So, July, we'll see the rubber match. And I can only hope that he makes some changes. But we'll see. We will see. Anywho, moving right along. In other news, in some wrestling news rather, we go over to WWE here. Just a week ago, they were in Saudi Arabia for their annual big money extravaganza. Wasn't a bad show. It's typical of what we expect from these shows now. It's really a glorified house show with all the glitz and glamour of WrestleMania, but you know, it's nothing that you're missing if you don't see it. They had the annual, what is this called? This trophy. They had a gauntlet match for this new trophy that they announced. me see if I got the name for this. The To Wake Trophy with Andrade, Rey Mysterio, R-Truth, Eric Rowan, AJ Styles, and Bobby Lashley. Well, it was going to be AJ that was going to win. Mysterio got attacked backstage, and then all of a sudden The Undertaker shows up. Obviously to start their build towards WrestleMania, but he dispatched of AJ Styles in about 10 seconds. So Undertaker, who wasn't even on the list for this match, he won the trophy and walked away with it. Rollins and Murphy defended the Raw Tag Titles against Street Profits. They retained. But if you watched Raw last night, they just won. So Profits are up. They got the smoke. And they're the champs now. Good stuff. Good stuff. Mansoor defeated Dolph Ziggler. I think, honestly, if we're being totally honest here, Mansoor is like Saudi Arabia's version of The Undertaker. Because they don't put him on TV, really. I think it's like maybe once a year outside of this event. But it's really only here because he's from Saudi Arabia. And obviously he want to appeal to the crowd in Saudi Arabia. It's only in that arena that you really see him. He always wins and plays it up to the crowd to inspire, more people from Saudi Arabia to pursue dreams of professional wrestling. But I don't see the point if you're not going to push him on TV outside of Saudi Arabia. That's all I'm saying. Because at this point, it's like, it's just Taker all over again. Because before he lost the streak, he got to a point where he was just wrestling one match a year, WrestleMania, and he was always winning. But then Brock Lesnar happened, and you know the rest. So yeah, the New Day defended the SmackDown Tag Titles against The Miz and Morrison. They won, and I'm not upset about that because for two guys who haven't been together in wrestling as a team or in any sense of the imagination in almost a decade, they don't look like they missed a step. Their cohesion is there. It's great. So, I'm not mad about this. I am mad that they made a match at Elimination Chamber for the tag titles because the tag team Elimination Chamber match format did not work well last time. So I don't know why we're doing it again. But that's just me. I'm just a fan. Nonsense. Bayley and Naomi. Bayley defended the SmackDown Women's Championship the first time a women's title was defended in the nation of Saudi Arabia. From the historical standpoint, that's obviously huge. We know what the situation is like over in Saudi Arabia when it comes to women in sports and everything like that. So this was a great step forward. That wasn't a bad match, if I'm being totally honest with you. It really got to show a lot of Naomi's skill set. It got to show Bayley being a lot more crafty as a heel. So I kind of enjoyed that match. I don't think that they're building towards that. I know that the rumor is that that's supposed to be a match for WrestleMania, but it's like you had a decent timed match between the two of them here with a definitive ending and Bayley winning. So I can't really see justification for just making the same match. But I guess we'll see. Brock just ran through Ricochet in about 30 seconds. That's all I can genuinely tell you about that. They built him. They built the promos up and everything like that. They hyped up Ricochet as the underdog. And, yeah. There was nothing to see there. Brock didn't even need to show up. Brock just wanted the paycheck. It was literally like 30 seconds. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that. Roman Reigns defeated King Corbin in the cage match. The less I say about this rivalry, whatever they're doing, the better. I'm done with it. I'm over it. Like, Vince, you got me on Corbin. He's a great heel. Cool. King of the Ring did wonders for him. Cool. I do not want to see him and Reigns in the same ring again for at least a year. I don't care if it's a tag match. I don't care if it's a promo. Just keep them away from each other. I'm over this. I'm done. Just let it go. It's enough's enough already. Between the dog food and the corny jokes and just the stipulations, I'm over this. Let's move on, please. Now, obviously, Roman is now challenging for the Universal title at WrestleMania. We will get to that in a second. But as far as Corbin, find him someone else to pick on, because this is done. And don't let it be Chad Gable either. I refuse to call him Shorty G because I don't like that name. But find him someone else, please, please and thank you. And, of course, the main event. The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, this magnificent, creative creation from the mind of Bray Wyatt, defended the Universal title against Goldberg. And going into this, I highly expected that Goldberg would look strong for a minute and a half, like his usual time. But then he would lose to the Fiend. That's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. He did look strong for that minute and a half. Then the Fiend kind of looked strong for a second, the mandible claw. But then he just jackhammered him and pinned him. And now Goldberg is the Universal Champion. Now, I'm one of those people that I can't be hypocritical, because I'll be one of those people that praises Chris Jericho for being the AEW champion, which I'll touch on that too in a second. There's some developments that took place over the weekend, but I'm one of those people that praise Jericho for, being the AEW world champion and how he has done, because he's up there very close in age with Goldberg. He's also full-time. So I can't sit up here and praise his performances and say that because Goldberg is 50, he shouldn't be world champion. I will say that there's a vast separation between the two of them. Chris Jericho is a performer. Goldberg is an attraction. Goldberg has never had a wrestling set. Goldberg has never been the type to wrestle a traditional style. He's always been his greatest hits and the finish. They tried to do that. They tried to make him a traditional wrestler in 2003, 2004. Didn't work out. He had a world title run, and it was underwhelming. Chris Jericho, I've said this several times, is the greatest of all time. From the time he was a wrestler in ECW, to WCW, to WWE, now in AEW, little stints in New Japan. His ability to reinvent himself is better than any wrestler I've ever seen in life. People that tell me Ric Flair was the GOAT, maybe for your generation, but Ric Flair didn't have to reinvent himself. Ric Flair's character sold itself. He was the rich, pompous, world champion and celebrity as a professional wrestler. All the women wanted him. He had all the money. He had the alligator shoes, the Rolex watches, and obviously the world title at the center of it all. But Jericho never needs a world title. Jericho does everything that he has to do just within himself. The man got a piece of paper on a clipboard more over than the guy who was supposed to be the face of the company in Roman Reigns. People booed Roman Reigns in 2016 when he was supposed to be the guy. But in that same year, if Chris Jericho pulled out a clipboard that said the list of Jericho, people lost their freaking minds. That is the power of reinvention. He puts on a scarf and pulls out a clipboard, and people cheer. There's never been a time where he's gotten stale. There's never been a time where he's overstayed his welcome. That, to me, I could go on for days about this, but that, to me, makes him the greatest of all time. Period. Not to mention, his skills in terms of promos on the mic and everything like that are unmatched. If you put him and Paul Heyman in the same ring and they have a promo off, I don't know who's going to win. And Paul Heyman is the greatest I've ever seen on the mic. So that's saying something. But yeah. That's how Saudi Arabia ended. Reigns and Goldberg are supposed to face each other at WrestleMania for the Universal title. The Fiend has challenged John Cena to a match. WrestleMania is actually coming together to look like a pretty decent card. I'm not going to lie to you. It's probably going to be another 7-hour-long extravaganza, which is dragging because I kind of like the idea of expanding WrestleMania to 2 days, but that's something I'll get into another day. But it was a pretty good week of TV after that, though. Last night, they had Raw, and it was a phenomenal show. It really was. I think Paul Heyman running the show is really doing wonders now that I guess he's finally got the reins to do what he wants to do every week. You know, I really like it. We built up more towards AJ and The Undertaker. He faced Aleister Black. Well, he had Aleister Black face the OC before getting a match with him. Street Profits, like I said, won the Raw Tag Team titles. Awesome. Shayna Baszler, and the man Becky Lynch obviously are continuing to build toward WrestleMania because let's face it, they're hyping Elimination Chamber match with her and 5 other women, but she's gonna win. She's gonna face Becky. She's probably gonna beat Becky at WrestleMania, and that's gonna be the end of it. I hate when it's too obvious. Like, there's obvious and there's we know what's going to happen. That's what this is. And then to close the show, obviously, we had the best storytelling angle that I'm seeing out of any of the shows between Randy Orton and Edge. Because Edge's wife, Beth Phoenix, came out. She was supposed to give a medical update, but she was interrupted by Randy Orton, and he finally gave us the explanation as to why he attacked Edge. And it kind of honestly makes sense. Basically saying that he was trying to save Edge from himself. Edge was like a junkie for the adrenaline of the crowd and the feeling of being out there, even though he knew that in terms of his health, he shouldn't be doing this. You know, he had to retire because of spinal stenosis. And the fact that he was able to come out and wrestle ever again it's like immeasurable. It's almost impossible to think of. But somehow, some way, he was found a way to get himself cleared. He said he had another neck surgery, and he was able to get cleared by the doctors. He showed up at the Royal Rumble, and we all went nuts. And Randy, according to his logic, said that he knew when he came back the next night on Raw that he was going to try and do this for a while. He had to stop him. He had to save him from himself. So he attacks him, hits the concerto, and spent weeks and weeks dodging the questions, and now he explains it to Beth. And he actually blamed Beth for him having to do that. that in itself was shocking to me. So, and of course, it ends with him RKOing Beth to close out the show. So, that to me is probably going to be the match of the night between the two of them. I mean, I know Ed's been out for a while, and you know, it's not like he's going to have any tune-up matches. He's just going to go right into this. So, from a storytelling perspective, I think it'll be the best match of the night. I think it'll be the most watched. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I really am. And sticking with the wrestling theme right now, if you saw Saturday night, I still have to watch it all myself, but AEW had another event, AEW's Revolution, which was headlined by Chris Jericho defending the AEW World Title against Jon Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose in WWE. And he defeated Chris Jericho for the AEW World Title. Not gonna lie, I slack on watching AEW these days because it's the same night as NXT, and I don't watch anything more than NXT. So I've been slacking a lot. But I can tell you, I think I'm going to tune in this week to watch AEW. Because, I mean, for me, the way I'm looking at it is, this is coming full circle for Jon Moxley. A guy who was left out as the third man in the Shield in WWE. He left because of a lot of frustration with creative direction. He wound up going through, some stints in New Japan or a small couple matches here and there, the G1 and everything like that. But found himself with AEW. And obviously right away was just promoted as a star. Weren't sure if he was going to be implemented in the title picture, but he didn't need to be, because if you knew this guy and you knew what his performances were like and what he's capable of, you don't need to put a belt on the guy, but it would be a hell of a story if he did. And so here you have this match, and you're not 100% sure if he's going to go over or not, and he does. So now everything kind of changes. The landscape changes. So definitely think I'm going to tune in and watch AEW Dynamite this week. Not to mention, I heard Taz is in AEW alongside JR on the commentary booth. So I love Taz. Taz was a lot of reasons I watched SmackDown back in the day. So that sounds good to me. I gotta check that out. So that's our wrestling week for you. There's been a lot else going on. We're getting closer to football again. I mean, you watch the XFL, football still going on. I have to get into it myself. It's very different, and I take some time getting to things that are different. But in terms of the NFL, the Scouting Combine took place over the weekend. It just wrapped up yesterday. I wasn't really watching because my guy Chase Young wasn't there. He didn't perform at the Combine. That's who I got my eyes on. Jeff Okuda did. He had a great showing. And also, Jalen Hurts apparently was doing his thing. A lot of guys, I don't know why we keep doing this, where once they leave college, you saw them in college. You saw their tape. Clearly they can play. Clearly they can play their position. But once they leave college and we start talking about the Combine, it's always, oh, he's fast. Yeah, he can throw the football, but he's fast. He's got agility. Maybe he should try another position. Why? Why are we talking about that? Why can't he simply just play the position that he was playing already? He did the same thing with Lamar Jackson, and if you watched last season, That's all you need to say. MVP of the league. Plain and simple. Best quarterback. Well, not best quarterback, but best overall player in the league last year. Didn't make the Super Bowl, but that wasn't necessarily his fault. But it's like, okay, here we go again. Because going into it, he was asked that question, just like Lamar was last year. Would you consider playing, or 2 years ago, I'm sorry, would you consider playing another position? He said, listen, I'll do what the team needs me to do, but I'm a quarterback. Why are we doing this? Why? Let the guys do what they do. And then, of course, he shows up at the combine. He impresses at the combine, and everyone says, oh, well, I didn't expect this. Why didn't you expect it? Do you watch films? Do you look at these guys play? Jalen Hurts was Alabama's quarterback at one point in time. Before Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts won a national championship with Alabama. There's a reason that Oklahoma was in the college football playoff this year. There's a reason they were. They didn't do anything super drastic. But they added Jalen Hurts. Because, at least at the college level, he's a quarterback that upgrades your offense, that upgrades your team. So, if you have a guy like that, that makes such a big difference to the team. I mean, they've had quarterbacks. You know, obviously Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, but they all went to the NFL. So if you have that on your team, that elevates you, and his play shows it, why are you trying to shift him to another position? You can always use a quarterback in the NFL. Always. Guys have off years. You have some people that, you know, sometimes you think they're going to pan out. They really don't. Some guys are leaving. Some guys are retiring. Some guys are getting up there in age. You need a successor. Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. Let quarterbacks be quarterbacks, man. It's ridiculous. Getting about sick of this. But, yeah, the combine is over. The draft is coming up next month in Las Vegas. We know who's going to be number one overall. Joe Burrow. And now some sources said that the Miami Dolphins, among a couple other teams, may be looking to make a play for that number one pick to get Joe Burrow to their team. I wouldn't, if I was him, I wouldn't be too excited about the prospect of being drafted by the Cincinnati Bengals. There's nothing there for you. I can tell you that now. But, yeah. We'll be back to the NFL very shortly. It won't be long. But anywho, I'm going to wrap this up. I know it's back to sports this early on, but I have some entertainment topics to hit on. Some trailers that dropped, some news, and things like that. I will get into them later in the week, most definitely, and we'll touch on it. But as far as this week goes, that's my show for you. I've been Wreak Havoc. You've been listening to the Havoc Hour. Thank you for tuning in. And for all my supporters, all my people out there that I've connected with and I keep in touch with. You know who you are. I don't need to say no names at this point. Love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. And Young Kings Wrestling, we gotta get our collab together because I still got a mind blowing concept. Well, my theory with CM Punk and Seth Rollins. We got to talk about that. But, yeah. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see y'all later in the week. I've been Wreak Havoc. Peace out.